Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to see you here today. We're going to talk all about how to succeed at anything you put your mind to. I know that is a bold statement, but it is true that what we were going to talk about today is all of the principles that you need to succeed at learning skills for your job, um, creating new well being routines, such as creating a consistent workout routine or, hi, Gigi. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, but hello. um, Succeeding at well-being routines, succeeding at any personal projects that you have, like starting a garden or reorganizing your closet or anything like that. Everything that we're going to talk about how to succeed at anything truly is transferable across anything. And we're live here on Instagram, we're live on YouTube, and I am so excited to get started. So if you are here live, I want to ask you to put in the chat, share in the chat, what is a goal or a dream or an outcome that you have that you're working towards? Maybe this is something that you have tried and then kind of given up and then tried again and then failed and then tried and then failed. Again, this was my story for a really long time. There were so many things that I wanted to do in my life that I was just not able to succeed at for a variety of different reasons. And so I want to talk about that. Why was that? And also, how do you actually like break down the things that are blocking you from success as well as the things that are essential for you to actually like stack little successes on top of each other. So if you're watching live, go ahead and share that in the chat. If you're watching this later, please share that in the comments. I would really love to hear what you are working towards, a dream, a goal, an outcome. Okay, so how we're going to do this today is I'm going to talk about a little bit about a personal story of my own experiences with a particular area of success and lack of success, and kind of use that story as a way to teach all of the different separate components of how to make something successful. So, and then the last thing that we're going to wrap up with is we're actually going to talk about why does this matter for what's happening on the world stage right now with like conflicts raging around the world and just human suffering in general, and changing the political circumstances, changing the humanitarian and like logistical circumstances that create suffering, and why you knowing how to succeed at anything that you set your mind to is actually essential for the thriving of the world. All right, that's what we're going to wrap up with. So stick with me if you're interested in that because we're getting there. Okay, so let me share a facet of my own story. I struggled for a really long time with working out. I grew up as someone who did ballet. I was in ballet from like, I don't know, pre kindergarten or around kindergarten through almost middle school. And I was about to start to go on the professional track um, of like becoming good at ballet, and then I did not do that, but that was my only real like physical activity. As a kid, I was really into the arts. I was a violinist, so I played violin over my whole childhood and into my early 20s, and also was like very into visual art. So I self-selected into kind of the artsy category of being, and I wasn't really someone who ever identified with like working out or moving your body or doing sports or anything like that. So by the time I was in my early 20s, I had, really gone hardcore down the violin path, the violin success path, and had basically like neglected my body already to a severe degree by the time I was in my early 20s. Um, and I was experiencing like knee pain, a lot of knee pain, even though At that time, I wasn't overweight, I was like a twig. I mean, yeah, but I was like, "Oh, I should, do things to, move and be healthier," and, instant knee pain as soon as I would start to try to do anything like that. Commence, years and years of me kind of trying just a new thing and thinking it was gonna be a panacea, and then knee pain flare up and, you know or I would be so critical about what I was doing that I would just back off of it within a matter of a couple of days. I'd be like, well, doesn't matter," or I would just completely forget that I had decided I was going to work out 3 times a week, for example. Um, and in certain other instances, when I was being consistent, I was still not seeing the progress that I really wanted to see in my physical condition and my strength, in reduction of knee pain, and all these things. I even went to a physical therapist and to resolve the knee pain stuff. But even getting myself to do those workouts for physical therapy was like pulling teeth, basically. um, so, cut to today, just a couple of days ago. Um, hi there, good to see you. Cut to a couple days ago where I was taking a walk and I was reflecting on some of the things I had done in the past week. I had gone to a group kind of fitness experience with one of my networking groups that I'm a part of, and I had felt really strong, really confident and powerful in my body. I was able to lift a significant amount of weight with ease, no knee pain. And, I take walks around my neighborhood regularly and do a lot more physical activity than I ever did or any earlier phase in my life. And I'm able to do it. I'm able to stay engaged. I'm able to see the progress happening week after week, day after day. And that is what success is. It's it doesn't mean getting gold star where you're like, "Oh, I, accomplished an Olympic feat." Success, so part of what succeeding at anything is redefining at least a little bit what success actually means to you. If success can only be accomplished by exerting effort over time for, years and months. Hello, good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. If success is something that you only define as something that you can accomplish after months and maybe even years of effort, that, I will only have succeeded if I successfully open my bakery that I want to open, or I will only have succeeded once I can be a compete in a powerlifting kind of convention. That's part of what you're going to need to do in the process of working towards success is shifting your definition of success to be in slightly smaller increments. And we're going to get into how to do that in just a little bit. So, what I want to start off by talking about is start where you are. Let's say you do have a really lofty dream of I want to have a thriving bakery. I have just wanted to open a bakery for my whole life. Don't know why. I love baking. I just have this thing inside of me that's you've got to do this. You've got to open a bakery. Well, um, what was I about to say? Yeah, there's no way to just insta leap into a new reality like that. All of these large goals, maybe your large goal right now is I just want to be able to go hiking on a easy to moderate hike and not feel like I'm dying by the time I get to, the top or the destination or whatever it is. So that's your, lofty goal. That's your definition of success right now. The first thing that you need to do is start where you are. Start where you are at your current level. I know I resisted this for years, years and years and years. And you might be too if you've like tried to build a habit, you've tried to figure out how to go to bed on time, you've tried to get a consistent workout routine going, you've tried to build skill at your job. Maybe you're trying to learn like a new programming language or a new framework, or you're trying to learn like better communication skills or how to run meetings more efficiently. Like you've tried to do these things and you're just like instantly kerplop, like it's not working. Hi, Irene. Good to see you. So, starting where you are, and let's talk about what prevents us from starting right where we are when we're trying to accomplish any success in our life. If you, especially if you were raised as someone who, like, basically was taught I can't be loved unless I, like, do this amazing thing. I'm only, like, seen maybe by my parents. I'm only acknowledged, like, I'm only looked at as a human if I get straight A's on all my schoolwork, or if I win, this, award at this, like, track meet, or I, get first chair in my musical group, or I get a featured solo spot in my choir. Like, if this is the way that you were conditioned, either by your family or by your broader cultural group, that like you're only lovable if you succeed in a very like public and large way, then of course you're basically going to have a fight or flight reaction when it comes to thinking about starting where you are, because your body received the message over and over and over again as a young person that I am not safe unless I'm doing incredible things. I am not safe unless I am able to, do the most amazing thing right away. I am not taken care of. I am not seen unless I am excellent. And when you start at anything, especially when you start where you are, it's like if you don't have the things that you want in your life, it's as simple as you haven't yet built the skills that you need in order to accomplish that result. And that means literally nothing about your intrinsic ability. It just means that you haven't built the skill yet. And how you build skill is by starting where you are at your current level of skill, at your current level of expertise. And so if you see yourself resisting starting where you are, first of all, put a resist in the chat if you're watching live. If you're like, oh, like every time I try to do the basic exercises, you're just like filled with intense self criticism and shame. And maybe that swings right back on over to apathy. And then you forget, that you were even intending on trying to succeed at this thing. What you need to do is you actually need to spend some time grieving. This might sound really weird. This is not something that we ever really talk about, is grieving the loss of where we think we should be. It is really important to allow the frustration, allow the sadness, allow that shit to like move through you, express through you, not try to keep pushing it to the side and be like, oh, it's fine. Like, I shouldn't be disappointed that I have to start where I am. I shouldn't be disappointed that I'm not where I want to be yet. You resisting feeling that frustration, that disappointment, that grief, that so much time has passed maybe with you trying, starting and stopping, and you still aren't where you want to be, that is worthy of grieving. And actually, it's essential for you to spend time grieving where you are not, so that you actually have enough like space in your body to have acceptance for where you are. Hi there. I see a bunch of you joining right now. Good to see you. If you resist starting where you are, put resist in the chat. I know this was my story for a long time. And when it came to my own personal working out routine, when I first finally understood this concept that I have to be willing to feel the grief, the frustration, the anger at time passing, frustration at myself, the sadness, that I just have to feel those emotions. I'm not talking about perpetuating the criticism, like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just feeling the pure sadness itself. There were a number of times when I finally started sticking with like a kettlebell workout routine where when I realized like, oh, what I'm trying to do is a little too hard for me at my current level of skill, and I have to do it this other way, I would just lie there and cry for like 5 minutes because I'm like, okay, gotta feel these feelings. This is the way. If I don't actually allow myself to just feel sad and like clear this emotion out of my body by allowing myself to feel it, then I'm not going to have the tolerance and the body awareness, and I'm going to want to like hit the eject button, go watch Netflix, go eat a snack, go do literally anything else, go scroll on social media. Like, I'm just going to want to eject out of my current reality. And the only way for me to stay in my current reality so that I can start with the basic skills that'll build up into the bigger goal that I have is to actually feel my feelings. So if you resonate with what I'm saying, put a yes in the chat. I would love to see how this is landing with you. And also, like, if you've got questions already, like, tell me. I want to hear it. So starting where you are and grieving and feeling your feelings, all that shit is so fucking important. I can't even tell you. The next thing I'm going to talk about is repetition and fluency. Fun fact, did you know that I was a music teacher for many years? Yes, Dana says, yes. Okay, I'm glad this is landing with you. Yeah, let me know like how you see this playing out in your own life and how this applies to you right now. It's interesting to hear. I guess my answer is yes. Yeah, this is something that I like the realization that I needed to just allow myself to actually feel sad and grieve for where I am not yet, that I'm telling myself I should be here, that it was such a weird thing for me to acknowledge, and it was simultaneously a game changer. Okay, repetition and fluency. Going back to what I was saying, I was a violin teacher for many years, and I was specifically trained in a method that was all about repeating little micro skills that build up into bigger skills. So let's talk about tying shoes. Okay, this is the example that we're going to use right now. We're going to talk about tying shoes. So if you have shoelaces on your shoes, you have like these two pieces of string. I wish I had string in front of me right now, but I don't. I have like cords. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. So you're tying your shoe. This is the shoelace. Let's pretend. So tying your shoes, it's like you've got one shoelace and then you've got another shoelace. And then, there's the loop around and push through method. And then there's the make two bunny ears method. And often when you're teaching kids how to tie their shoes, you teach them like make a loop, make another loop, cross them over each other, and then, pull the loop through, and then your shoes are tied. So, can you imagine if you didn't know how to tie your shoes and there was just someone yelling at you saying, tie your shoes, tie your shoes, tie your shoes, tie your shoes, tie your shoes. And you're like, well, bruh, like, I don't know how to fucking tie my shoes. Like, you yelling at me is not, and you just saying that this macro skill is not helping me to actually get there faster. What you need, and Dana, I see I have to get to work next time for sure. I resonate with you so much. Awesome. That's great. I am glad this is resonating with you, and come back and watch this later because we're going to keep rolling and lots more useful information coming. So, tying shoes, as I already kind of said, is a process that has many micro skills inside the broader skill of tie your shoes. So you have two shoelaces. So first, the person or the child or whoever it is has to like learn to basically take this string and then fold it in on itself and then pinch it with one hand. That is a skill. I know that might seem overly simplistic. And again, we're going to figure out how to apply this to the areas that you're wanting to succeed in. This is a skill. Doing that with the other hand is a separate skill because, again, we have different levels of dominance in each one of our hands, different levels of dexterity. So, things that you have to think about to accomplish this goal, bending a string and holding it in one hand, for one hand might be different than the things you have to think about for the other hand. Okay. Then you have the crossing over side. I wish I had this ready. Okay, here we go. So I've got two, crossing over and figuring out how to cross it over and what angles and how to keep them pinched together. That is a whole thing uniquely onto itself. So let's bring this back to repetition and fluency. If you want someone to get really freaking good at tying their shoes, have them practice loop, loop, cross over and over and over again. And each one of those things, practice making a loop, practice making a loop, drop it, let it dangle, practice making a loop, try it again, practice making a loop. And again, we're looking to repeat this micro skill so often correctly because it's not practice makes perfect, it's practice makes permanent. So as soon as you get something correct, as soon as you are accomplishing the goal that you want to accomplish with the skill that you need to learn, that's when you need to repeat, 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 repeat to get that so locked into your unconscious that you don't even have to think about it anymore. Like right now, I don't know, ZYX. I'm like, can I spell the alphabet backwards? Probably not on the spot, but let's say the challenge would be to learn how to make a loop while saying the alphabet backwards. I should be able to do that and still be able to execute this skill if it's that fluent. Like that's the level of fluency we're hoping for. When you build fluency through repetition at all of the little micro skills that make up, tying your shoelaces, that is what makes it easier and easier and easier to do the next most challenging thing, then the next most challenging thing, then the next most challenging thing. Let's bring this back to the workout routine. Okay. So let's say you want a workout routine of doing jumping jacks for like a minute, doing push ups for a minute, and doing, I don't know, like squats for a minute or something like that. So the first skill there might be learning to overcome your resistance and like learning to work with your grief to actually like get you to successfully move into action. So that's a skill. That's a skill that you can practice. Um, Build fluency through repetition. Yes. Yes. I'm so glad that you were calling that out, Kipling. Thank you. So the repetition of like learning to work with yourself, soothe yourself, be there for the part of you that is like, I really wish that I wasn't struggling with this. I wished so much time hadn't passed. I wish that I had been able to like figure this out sooner. I'm so sad. That is a skill, learning how to be with that part of yourself in a soothing enough way to get yourself to start to take an action. That is a skill that you can repeat. So that's the first part of your workout routine. Isn't that fucking wild? Then the next part is like, okay, let's do 1 minute of jumping jacks. The end. That's like literally getting yourself to do one action like that is a skill. For jumping jacks, maybe there are certain components of it, like with your form, where I don't know what the correct form is for jumping jacks. I'm making all this up on the spot. Let's say you like don't want to bend your arms while you're jumping jacksing or something. You want to have your arms to be relatively straight. So that's a skill. Just doing jumping jacks for 1 minute while only thinking about keeping your arms straight. That is a repeatable skill that you can focus on and you can build fluency with. Let's say there's something weird about how you're moving your feet in your jumping jacks. You can focus on that one skill of like, I want my feet to be more or less parallel to each other. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Build fluency until you could, sing, I don't know, sing the national anthem and do that. Spell the alphabet backwards and do that. Like, this is the level of repetition that is necessary to create fluency. Once you move all of these little micro skills into your unconscious, i.e., you don't have to think about it and effort with your brain to do it anymore, then the meta skill of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do jumping jacks for a minute. And then I'm going to move on and I'm going to do push ups for a minute and so on and so on. All of that becomes so much easier. So I think you get the point with repetition and building fluency. This is so important. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to actually make repetition easier. So you get the point now that it's like we got to repeat shit a whole bunch in order for it to become easier, which then allows you to stack your successes on top of each other. How do you get yourself to repeat things over and over and over again? Number one, they need to be broken down to the correct level of effort. And so let's talk about what that even means. When you're trying to build your capacity to do something new, so for me, let's say it's I've been working on with my own trainer like shoulder stability. I'm learning how to do overhead presses without like doing weird things with my shoulders and like curling them inwards. I'm anchoring them into my back. I'm letting my shoulder blades kind of glide up and to the side as I'm pressing overhead. So, what makes it successful, like me lifting a kettlebell up and overhead, I tried for a while and I was not, that was too macro of a skill. I was moving into fight or flight when I was doing it. I was not able to be here in my body and really feel what was happening while I was doing it. And all of that is super important, especially for something like weightlifting, to be in your body. But this is also true for building skills like communication skills or learning to lead meetings in a particular way, learning how to interact with the people in the meeting in a way where you're like facilitating it and including everyone in the meeting. Being in your body, like actually able to feel the sensations in your body and intake sensory data is a really important part of the learning process. And so therefore, in order for you to not just like move into survival mode and like fight or flight your way into doing something that kind of looks like success, looks like the big, thing that you want to accomplish, but actually you're like not paying attention at all to the little details and you're going to end up like either injuring yourself in the case of doing kettlebell press, or you know the meeting is going to go poorly and then people are going to be like, I didn't enjoy that at all, we didn't really like get anything out of this meeting. um you need to break down the skills that you want to repeat and practice to the right level so that you are not like in survival mode while you are trying to do that skill. So, does anybody who's watching have a skill that you're trying to learn that we could like break this down in real time? If you're here with me, let me know. I would love to use a skill that you are using in your or you're seeking to build in your own life right now. Something that you want to be successful at. And maybe even if you don't have a skill, you could share like I want to be successful at XYZ thing and I haven't been successful yet. And maybe we can break that down into like micro skills and figure out which skill, level of skill feels like I can be here in my body and I can still like stretch myself. We can look into communication skills. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So let's say I'm trying to think of a communication skill on the spot. Let's say this is something that I'm actually working on right now, especially when I record my reels. I'm looking at reducing my ums. I'm not doing a very good job of it right now probably, but in my reels, I am starting to really work on reducing filler words like ums. And so what I've learned so far about doing this is that this is about slowing down and allowing for silence, like building your tolerance for silence while your brain figures out what the right next words are to say, rather than just filling the space with ums or uhs or so's. So is one of the ones that I do a lot, actually. Tolerating silence and taking a moment to form your next sentence is a skill. Okay. So if I were expecting myself to be able to do that and also to keep my same pace of talking right away, that would be a recipe for disaster because I haven't isolated the skill that I can successfully execute small enough yet. If I were trying to keep up my regular pace of talking, especially when recording a reel where I'm not interacting with people live, that's where I tend to get in my head a little bit more. Um, I would, what was I going to say? Goodness. If I'm trying to keep up my regular pace of speaking, it would be too much. So I would need to allow myself the practice time to slow down and be aware of my filler words and holding myself back from saying them. And then just talking at a slightly slower pace, knowing that once I practice that skill enough, I will be able to gradually increase the pace of my talking back up to maybe like a normal pace. So, this is an example of what I'm talking about of breaking the skill down to the right level. Let me know if this is resonating with you. You can write, I don't know, yes in the chat if you are resonating with what I'm saying or if you're understanding what I'm saying. The second thing that makes it easier to repeat a skill enough so that you can build fluency in it is to make it fun, straight up. Just to find ways to make it fun, make it pleasurable, um, make it enjoyable. This is so acceptable with children. Again, I was a teacher of children for many years, young children especially. We are taught, like, with the tying shoelaces example, like, we're gonna make bunny ears and we're gonna, like, oh, look, it's a bunny rabbit. Like, all of these things are all about fun, 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 making it silly, making it goofy, making it extremely fun. Adults are no different. I'm telling you, we somehow get this idea in our heads as we get older that like we should be able to learn new skills and not have to have it be fun and not have to have it be pleasurable or enjoyable. I actually think my hunch is that this is part of the reason why when you do something you love, you actually excel at it faster is because you literally just love it. And therefore, because you love it and you are enjoying the process, you are learning faster. So, how then can you kind of reverse engineer that and bring more fun into any kind of a learning process that you are doing? How can you make it more pleasurable? Can you actually enjoy the sensory experience of learning that skill? So for me, when I'm doing my workouts, I'm not immune, okay, to the inner criticism. This is why I do what I do, is because I have experienced the shifts in my life that have been so profound from using the tools that I now have in my toolkit. and they help me to be able to actually do all of the things that I want to do. So let's say I'm waking up and I've decided I'm going to work out in the morning and I'm like, murmur, this is going to suck. It's going to be terrible. You're not going to be able to do it the way you want to do it. Like, this narrative still happens for me sometimes. If I, scope down to the right level of skill, and I know that I'm not like trying to overload myself, and I am able to actually be in my body, I'm going to bring my attention to, as I'm doing this like dumbbell carry and like stabilizing my shoulder as I walk, let me notice the feelings, like the sensory experience in my body. Let me notice the kind of burning sensation in my muscles. Let me notice like how powerful I feel when I'm holding this, dumbbell up on my hand. Like, let me notice like how good it feels to be a little bit better at this week than last week. Bringing my attention to the pleasure and the joy that I can experience right here in the moment while I do the task that I'm looking to repeat is gonna lead to me wanting to do it more, because if I'm enjoying the felt experience of practicing this task or this skill, then I'm just gonna wanna do it again because it was really fun. Maybe there's a part of a project that I'm doing, I'm like creating a slide deck, or I don't know. And again, maybe it's like, oh my God, I have so much to do. I don't know how I'm gonna get this done. Blah, 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 blah. Let's put on some lovely music. Let's light a candle. Let's make sure my clothing is comfortable. Let's, create a little cocoon for me to create in. And I have my laptop on my lap. And what would be the most fun, most easiest way for me to get my ideas out on either literal paper or metaphorical paper or digital paper? Um, what would be the path of least resistance? We underestimate how powerful putting ourselves in situations where the process of creation, the process of working, the process of building the habit is inherently vulnerable, not vulnerable, inherently pleasurable. Like, that is so powerful. And then infusing that process with joy. I'm going to read through the comments a little bit here. So, in the case of what you're saying, where you're saying, let's say, trying to learn how to play the violin, you must dissect the skill into the parts where you're learning how to hold the instrument, how to play a short composition, how to play a slightly longer composition, how to play a full song in front of an audience. And by the time you're learning for all the previously learned things are already automated. Yes, exactly. Exactly, exactly. And it's like all the things that you named are even still like meta skills, believe it or not. Like, for learning to play violin, there's, the instrument on your shoulder and then there's the bow. So there's like learning how to position your hand like this, where your thumb is in between your two fingers. You can try this with a pen right now if you want. This is fucking weird. Like, nobody does this in real life. When do we do things where we actually like kind of swing our thumb underneath the middle of our hand? This takes so much to practice and like become habitual. And that's just one part of learning how to hold your instrument, is literally just that. And actually, we do a game with little kids of like, this is a bunny rabbit, and you go hop, hop, hop. Do you see again how all this is about like fun and games and stuff like that? So, yes, I mean, I don't want to invalidate what you're saying. What you're saying is absolutely true, Kipling, that like each one of the things you named are smaller skills underneath the big result of like, I want to be able to play this, instrument in front of an audience. And even each one of those, kind of micro skills compared to that big result can also be broken down and automated into each one of their own little sub skills. Okay, thank you so much for naming that, because again, I just think that example and your thought process is so useful for others who are watching this either now or later. Okay. So we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We've talked about processing your emotions, being a huge part of overcoming your resistance to starting where you are right now. We have talked about um, basically the things that you've been conditioned to believe about like what's okay about where to start in your skill level and abilities. We've talked about the importance of repetition to build fluency. That basically the way that you can ensure your success is to practice the little components of a bigger outcome or a bigger skill and practice those frequently enough that they become fluent. You don't need to think about it. And then your next level will be easier, and your next level will be easier, and your next level will be easier. And then you'll be achieving all of these high level outcomes with relative ease. This is how you see people like doing these really complicated things and they make it look so easy, is because they've repeated all of the sub skills frequently enough that they no longer have to use their entire brain's power to be able to do all that stuff all at once. And then lastly, we talked about the importance of right sizing your next little chunk of effort and building a skill and accomplishing a project, making sure that it's the right size that you can like be here in your body and experience it while you're doing it, and then bringing pleasure and joy into the process. Okay, the final thing I want to end with is why all of this matters when it comes to changing the world for the better. We obviously, like, unless you've been living under a rock, there's a lot of shit going on right now politically, wars, like, all of it is fucking terrible. I'm not going to get into how terrible it is. Like, there's plenty already about that. The reason why it is so important to me that you internalize and really believe that you can succeed at anything you set your mind to is because you need to believe that you can succeed at anything you set your mind to in order to make change in the world. So let's say we want to eradicate hunger. Let's say we want to solve our environmental issues. Let's say that we want to stop, human trafficking. Let's say that we want to spread more knowledge and change policies on like restoring the health of our topsoil so that we can keep basically farming and we don't have like the desertification of all of our farmland. Let's say that we want to figure out how to have people actually express anger in their bodies through nonviolent means rather than fucking killing each other, because that's how they get a sense of personal power. You have to believe that you are capable of learning new things in order to realize any outcome in this world. Any outcome. So if we're sitting here and we're like, I don't really believe that it's possible for me to XYZ, just on a personal level. How are we going to get to the point where we can hold the beautiful visions that we have for this world of having more peace, having more emotional intelligence, having more robust and actually effective environmental solutions? There's so much experimentation, so much discovery, so many little micro projects and micro skills, like billions, that go into each one of these high level outcomes that I'm guessing if you're here that you're longing for in the world. Acceptance of diversity, like accepting of all sorts of gender identity, etc. All of these outcomes are built up by hundreds and thousands of people believing that it is possible for them to create an outcome. And so the reason why it is so important for me to help you understand that you can succeed at anything you set your mind to if you use all of the strategies that we've talked about today is because I know that you care about the world. I know that you care about humanity, about the earth, about animals, about human rights, like all sorts of human rights. I know you care about equality. You need to believe that you have the agency and the ability to create whatever the fuck you want to create because we need you. We need your sensitive heart. We need your care. We need all of the brilliance that's inside of you to be able to be unleashed. And this is why it is so important for me that you understand through the process of building a workout routine for yourself, through the process of upskilling in your job, through the process of learning how to go to bed on time, whatever it is, that you cement beyond a shadow of a doubt into your body the felt sense and understanding that I am fucking capable of creating anything that I want to create because all of this is learnable skills. All of it. All of it. I don't I literally I wish I had a fucking, 100-foot tall banner that I could like fly behind me. So, if you are watching what is happening in the world and you're like feeling hopeless and helpless, that is I understand. I have spent a number of days and moments like feeling really sad. I mean, sad is an understatement. Feeling bereft, feeling like, what the hell? How are we going to be able to like shift this? Feeling powerless, honestly. And if we want to be able to influence the world around us and even the world on a macro level, because I know if you're here, you have something inside of you that's like, I know I can use my gifts and my high sensitivity for good. This is why you're a high achiever. You need to believe that you have the agency to make change. So, all right, Kipling, quotable number 2, you need to understand that you intrinsically have the power to succeed in anything you set your mind to. You do. You do. It's all about building skill and creating the conditions that allow you to continue to build that momentum for yourself. Okay, so that is going to essentially wrap up. I want to share with you, I've got a little fun special going on right now that is all about springing out of bed and owning your day. This is so tied to what we just talked about. I want you to be able to actually look forward to your day rather than snoozing your alarm 5 million times before you get out of bed and essentially believing that you don't have the ability to influence your day for the better, that you would just have to tolerate and put up with like everything that is thrown in your direction, and that you aren't able to set boundaries with people you don't like talking to, that you aren't able to advocate for the type of work that you like to do in your job, that you aren't able to make these habit shifts that would actually like create a better experience in your body and in your emotions. I am here to help you make these shifts. So, if you are wanting to spring out of bed and feel like I fucking own this day, let's go, then the link is in my stories right now. And I'll be continuing to share about this over the next week or two because I want to invite many of you to experience the power of coaching, especially body-based and somatic coaching. It is like nothing else. I actually just had a client say, like, in a session, we accomplished more in this session than I did in like years and years of therapy. I'm like, yes, this is what we need. We need change that lasts and that actually makes a meaningful shift. That isn't just like staying up in this logical, analytical layer, because that's not what we're about here. So, spring out of bed, own your day. And then I have a 6-month coaching program called Burnout to Baddie, where again, this is all about like basically if you are burnt out and exhausted, you are just like, I'm over the way my life is going right now. I need a complete overhaul. I will be your new best friend, basically. I will be in your pocket via texting and voice memos, unlimited amounts. We will have weekly sessions. We will have a kickoff session to like kind of overarching make a plan of where you want to be in 6 months. And then we will do all sorts of amazing things together on a weekly basis to get you radical shifts by the end of the 6 months together. So reach out. There's a link in my bio if you want to investigate burnout to baddie. And otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you next week. Next week's topic is going to be all about how to laugh at the things that scare you the most. And I think that's a perfect theme because it's Halloween. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I'm just so glad that you are here. If you're here live or if you're watching this later, thank you for taking a moment to take care of you. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.